Good afternoon, listeners. This is the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast. This is a special episode, an interview with someone I've known a long time. Alex is obviously joining me as usual, co-host. This is Gordon Howell. Now, Gordon has worked for a company called Pole Position Travel, founder and owner. I hope I'm right there. You can correct me if you like, Gordon. This is the leading, if not the leading, one of the leading, if not the leading, motorcycle racing experience company for team experiences. Your tickets, your hospitality, and your hotel packages. This gentleman has basically been a pioneer of it since the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, I think that's right. Gordon, would you say when did it all start?
Well, we did our first tour in 2002. So, and then they added events quite quickly from then on. From 2006, we've been doing every MotoGP. We started in Superbikes in 2010. And we started the Isle of Man and road racing in 2012. So,
wow,
that long. So,
an awful lot of traveling. Jesus.
We do about 30 events now every year. Well,
blimey.
You don't get to see your house much then, Gordon.
I literally got back. From holiday about an hour ago, and apart from the couple of days when I returned to the house before we went on holiday, I was away for 6 weeks solid.
Okay.
So that is this is what we call it Crazy June, because there's 10 events in 9 weekends. The last one being Assen that just happened. So
and obviously you're off the back of the Isle of Man TT. And all sorts, like I'm assuming Aragon, Silverstone.
For me personally, Crazy June started in May, as it always does, where I went to the Northwest 200. Then the next weekend it was Silverstone MotoGP, 2 weeks at the Isle of Man, then the Misano Superbike, and the Mugello MotoGP. And I think there's one I've skipped in there, but it's there.
It doesn't make many odds. And there's World Superbikes as well still, every single round?
We don't do we sell product for every round, which is to say our VIP and team experiences. But we're greatly increasing our tours in Superbikes. I would say, last year I think we did tours maybe 4 of the events. This year I think we're doing 8, and I think I would suspect we're going to do all of them next year. So Superbike has been picking up. Never very big, but still, I like them. I'm going to. I'll be at Donington. I was been to 3 already this year. So,
and for those of us that don't know, Gordon, what sort of packages do you offer? What sort of experiences do you offer to punters?
So broadly, it falls into 2 areas. There's the full tour package, which is where it's a guided tour. Mir, one of my excellent colleagues, will be at the event. We'll have accommodation, track transfers. Then you'll have an option of what tickets to use, and which can range from anything from the ordinary grandstands to top-end VIP, team experiences, even platinum team experiences, where you end up on the start grid. And then we always have some extracurricular activities, such as on Friday nights for all MotoGPs and Superbikes. We'll have an opening dinner. MotoGPs will bring in some top speaker, usually a journalist, maybe some riders. And sometimes for instance, Bruno will have quite a few, and we'll also have a charity auction. So basically that's it. We do the tours, which are full service accommodation, transfers, choice of tickets, and other gubbins such as parties and dinners. And some of our guests just simply opt for on-track experiences, and for that we'll sell one of our main, probably we're best known for team experiences. We currently work with 4 or 5 teams now. In MotoGP, we work with 1 or 2 teams in Superbikes. We also work with a couple teams in the Isle of Man, if that matters. But and then you can go in as a guest of the team for the weekend. Or we also sell on its own. That is not as part of the package. We can also sell VIP and hospitality. We do not sell just grandstand tickets on their own. They're only included as part of one of our tours.
The package, yeah, it's amazing. So you're based in Prague, am I correct?
We're dual based, really. I'm in Prague at the moment. That's because my family's here. But we moved the base of the business to Edinburgh, Scotland. I should say back to Edinburgh. That's where I started in 2002. 2004, I shifted over to Prague. I got married, Czech Republic, joined the EU, and foolishly thought we were all one big happy family. So I made the biggest business blunder of my life when I created the new company as an EU limited company, even though we were servicing the British customer base, and that came out and bit me after COVID, or rather as a result of Brexit. So
I can imagine.
Moved back to the good old Blady, and now technically in Scotland, and so the company is now officially based in Edinburgh.
Oh, okay, right, lovely. But would you still consider Brno to be sort of your home Grand Prix sort of thing?
Yes, now that it's back, I still consider it as our flagship event.
Yeah.
It will certainly be our biggest this year. Well, depends on Valencia. We usually, there's about 2 or 3 of our events which are always big. Like I said, Brno's been away for since 2020, so it's absolutely beyond in the last 5 years. It's certainly the one good thing that's happened is its return, and I'm hoping we are going to see a lot of guests there, and hopefully it will carry on being our flagship event. Sadly, Valencia's
sorry.
No, just to fill in the rest, because I always get asked. Valencia, Misano, and in the MotoGPs, and then some of the flyaways they alternate. For a while, it was Malaysia that was our top flyaway. Now it's become Thailand. Sadly, it looks like next year is the last year for Thailand. So if you want to go there, I strongly recommend you go next year. It is a brilliant event.
And Thailand,
and that's confirmed, is it? That's confirmed. Is the next year's the last one? They're not extending the contract.
So where we last left it, Thailand declined to renew their contract with Dorna. Thailand Buriram. There is some talk that the Thais are trying to set up another move the round to a venue near Bangkok, but I know nothing about that. Yeah. All I know is I've been told by a lot of people now that this will probably be the last Buriram. And Buriram is wonderful. The event, they put on such a great show there. It's not the first place you would choose to go on holiday, but you get there and you just feel like you're a superstar. And I think that is one of the reasons that makes some of those events so wonderful. I used to say about the American events, Indianapolis was not the best circuit, but God, you go there and you felt like you're royalty. And they just do you so well. Anybody who went to any MotoGPs, if they also included Indianapolis, they'd always come back and say Indianapolis was the best. Thailand is a bit like that. It's one of the reasons I think that we saw a lot of our business gravitate away from Malaysia to Thailand, and to a lesser extent Indonesia, which has only just started, and that's got a lot better than the first year. First year was a bit bit dodgy, but last year was pretty good, and this year it's selling pretty well. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I mean Thailand. You think back to the first round of this year. Just before then, obviously we had all of that. The one Thailand event, that was unbelievable. Like the way that those riders are treated, like as you say, like superstars, and even from the riders to the spectators, everyone that goes there is sort of like they must be treated like royalty. It's an amazing experience just to watch on TV. I can't imagine what it would be like actually going there. It must be incredible.
Yeah,
But,
it was hot.
yeah, I bet
very,
it was. Yeah,
very hot.
yeah,
That's
yeah. Well, that's what was one of the things about the flyways, isn't it? They're always some of the
sometimes,
hottest events.
Unless
Yeah,
you go to Phillip Island, in which case bring your parka.
yeah. Well, going back to going back to Bruno, because obviously we're getting really kind of like our home Grand Prix this year, because the Grand Prix that we're going to is Bruno, and obviously we've not been there for a few years since 2020. We've noticed that while we're looking at grandstand tickets and all sorts of stuff, a lot of the grandstands are already sold out. It's looking like it's going to be a bumper event.
Yes, yeah. It's like I said, it's looking really popular. We sold out like that for our two lower end packages. And indeed, a bit aggravating because we'd actually asked for more rooms, fully anticipating this. But our hotel of many years had changed management, and they misunderstood our request and gave us half the number of rooms we expected. And those, we probably sold those out in a couple of weeks. We still now, fortunately, we were able to obtain more rooms, and particularly brand new. It's not a new; it's an old hotel, but completely renovated, beautiful 4-star hotel nearby. So I think we still got 1 or 2 rooms left. But that's how strong Brno has been. We've got quite a few team guests, quite a few people in there. We'll hope again. I say everything as if it's still 2019 because we haven't been there since then. And we had we helped the circuit put together a hospitality unit, which is at the top of the grandstand section as it goes down the waterfall. Absolutely spectacular hospitality, one of the best in MotoGP, if I do say so myself.
Yes,
you get great viewing, great food, really great beer. All included. And to be honest, the waitresses and the staff are not difficult to look at either. So you have a lot of.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
It really is. It's for a biker lover. And this is why Brno has always been. Whenever you talk to people, they'd say, "Well, what was your?" Brno would more often than not come out as the favorite event they'd ever been to, and everybody was super disappointed when it got canceled. And of course, equally, we're super excited that it's back. So that it's going to be. We'll start the weekend in our traditional fashion on Friday night with a big charity event. We'll be hopefully auctioning some cool stuff for Two Wheels for Life, and just doing all the stuff you do at Brno.
Amazing. We cannot wait to get there. We really can't wait.
That's what we're talking about now, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
I know.
But, I think that £1.50 pints of beer.
That always helps.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in the Czech Republic myself, but mainly to the north of the German border.
Oh, right.
And I can confirm that the rumours about the cheap beer is they're very true. And also, it's just an incredible country. I've got Czech friends. Like I say, I spent a lot of time in the Czech Republic. And
we had a stag do there, didn't we?
Yeah, a stag do there, but not in Prague, because Prague is just. I know it's ironic that I'm saying this, but it's just full of Brits and it's been ruined a bit. But I speak a bit of Czech. Been trying to learn a bit more for when we go to Brno and that sort of thing.
Facts.
It's an amazing country. And the track is incredible as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see it resurfaced.
Some amazing racing.
Yeah.
We followed all of the resurfacing stuff that they put on their social media, and
they even replied to us. I was just saying honestly, because they've been so hands on with their social media promoting, the resurfacement. Yeah. They've not held back with them with it at all, and they promoted it very well. And I, on the elbows down, I was just saying, you guys are brilliant. You're an example of a track of how to give it a rebirth, really, and they put it on their story. So it looks fantastic. And obviously, there's been testing there, and Salach has been saying the surface is great, and Dixon has as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have been testing there. Obviously, we've just had the MotoGP private test there for Yamaha and I think Honda as well. So it's just so exciting. It's a bit like when Glastonbury has a fallow year. when there's no Glastonbury for a year, and then all of a sudden it's coming up again, and everyone's getting excited, months in advance for it, and I feel like that with Brno. It's such an incredibly exciting event.
Yeah.
Funny you should mention cheaper beer in the north of the Czech Republic. I now remembered the one round that I omitted from my list, which is, of course, the Czech Superbike at Most.
At Most, yeah.
Yeah, and Most, you literally go from there 1 week, where I'm paying £1.25, £1.40 for a beer, to Silverstone, where you're paying £7.50.
£7, yeah.
And I could argue that the beer at Most is better, but
let's not go down that because we'll be there. We'll be here all afternoon, because we've already done a pod about that. But yeah. If I could just rewind the years a bit, Gordon.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you: did it take a long time, back to 2002 and onwards, I presume? Did it take a long time to establish a relationship with the teams for access to the hospitality, for sponsorship for your company, or did many teams immediately welcome you with open arms?
Well, let me answer that by telling how it happened, and then you can decide whether that was a long time or not, or open arms. Well, way back when we started, our first event was in 2002 in Brno, and we, that was just, what's this MotoGP thing all about? We shortly, a couple of years later, we repeated in 2003, and then 2004, I thought, we need to up the game and wanted to sell the VIP. So I flew down to Barcelona. We met with Dorna, and they gave me a license to sell the VIP Village. Shortly after that, I guess maybe call it a year or two, and we realized that what many of our customers wanted. I'll tell you a story, not to denigrate Dorna, but to tell you the way the thinking was then. When we met with them in Barcelona, they asked, okay, so you want to sell VIP Village? Who are your customers and how are you going to reach them? I said, well, my customers are very keen individuals who are just really into motorcycle racing, and I'm going to, reach them through, all the normal channels. Even then, social media was just becoming a thing. But I was talking about news groups, and I was just going to reach out to people I knew who really like bikes, and they literally laughed. They suppressed a giggle, and it was good luck with that kind of thing, because even then the tickets were costing, they were probably about €500 a throw at that point, and they geared the product around selling to corporates, so corporates and sponsors, and that's pretty much all they ever thought about. And so I came in and with a proposition to sell to individuals. It's almost like, oh, right, sure, we'll give you a license just to see what happens. And 3 years later, not even 3 years later, we were the number one seller of the VIP Village. And because there are a lot of people like you and me, my fundamental rule of life is it's something I would buy, then it's something I'm happy to sell. But, then that moves into, well, the VIP Village is great. You kind of you're there in luxury. You're seeing the race and all of that. But my customers, a lot of the people I was with wanted to get closer, and that means going in to the paddock, and that means becoming a guest of a team in practice. They do VIP Village does things like paddock tours, which again, not to disparage them too much, but internally we call them paddock frog marches. So you're kind of just paraded around and you don't really engage, you just see, right? And it's engagement that mattered. So I approached. We started out with a 250 team for the first year, and then we did it a few times. Managed to bring people in as their guests. Then I decided to formalize the whole program. We actually approached Dorna with a proposition, and I wrote it all out. They had to approve it to do team experiences, which they thankfully did approve. And we started work with and I wanted to move up to MotoGP. Obviously because MotoGP is where it's at. And so to make a long story short, we ended up approaching Grissini, at that time Grissini Honda. you may remember San Carlo Grassini,
Yeah.
and met up with the kind of number 2 guy, still is, Carlo, and I explained what I wanted to do. He thought it was a good idea. And
Yeah.
so that was the first MotoGP team we linked up with. And very happy to say and proud that we're still with them and are very far and away our biggest team as far as supplier, as far as providing these team experiences goes. We've added teams over the years. A couple of years later, we added LCR Honda, who are equally wonderful. And then we've had a couple of Moto2 and Moto3 teams over the years. And currently, and since they started, we work with a team now known as MLAV Racing. In Moto3, they were Vision Track when they started. We've been with them literally since the first day they appeared in MotoGP. And again, very happy and proud that they were still working very successfully with them. And a lot of our guests, in fact, far and away, the bulk of the guests that come with us are guests of MLAV. Partly because they're British, and I get a lot of British guests. But also, frankly, because they're less expensive than MotoGP.
Yes.
And this year, we had been working for 10 years with the Moto2 team. Sadly, they folded over the winter. But I'm happy to say we went back with an old team we worked with and resurrected that relationship. And we now in Moto2 work with Aspar. And Aspar been one of the longest teams, private teams in MotoGP. So, and yeah, with Holgado and Alonso, they're looking pretty good. You know.
Yeah,
Just a
definitely,
bit.
yeah.
It's,
Alex Marquez.
Good say.
So that's where I think our real strength is, in that, and there's lots of other people we work with. Over the years, we've sponsored many riders. That all came to a grinding halt. Well, before the grinding halt bit, a number of riders who have become household names. We worked with Brad Binder since 2009. He was just a 15-year-old in the Red Bull rookies, and worked with his brother Darren, a whole bunch of other, speaking of South African, Steve Odendahl when he was there, Jake Dixon, John McPhee. There's quite a few others.
You basically answered the next question there anyway, to be honest with you, which is saved us a bit. Because, I mean, most notably for me was Brad Binder, because of where he is now. Because how far he's come. I mean, that's where I met him in 2013 through you, through what you did for me for the blogging back in the day. I was lucky enough to meet his family. I remember Sharon. Still got her on Facebook, actually. Wonderful family, and obviously Darren going through rookies and then into Moto3. Obviously, competition travel was pretty much a part of most of the last decade, wasn't it? Or it's certainly the last 12 years. In sponsorship and helping him get there. And Brad's met thousands of your customers, hasn't he? Which is something that, I mean, yes, obviously you've had John McPhee and so on and so forth, but you must be very proud of what you've done there. I mean, considering Brad's, should have won the title of Moto2 in 2019. He did dominate Moto3 in 2016. A 2-time Grand Prix MotoGP winner and 2-time sprint winner. You must be really proud of being part of that journey, Gordon.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, he's my man. I mean, people ask me who I'm. Okay, yeah, we work with Grassini and I love Alex and Aldegar. I love Jan Zarco, and in fact, I love a lot of the riders, to be fair. But if you ask me personally, who's my man in the paddock, it's Brad. And I don't make any secret of that. I'm always asking, okay, great. Alex came in second. So where'd Brad go? So mostly disappointing result this year. But I keep predicting 2 years ago, I in the very opening round, I caught up with Brad and said, Brad, I got you down for winning the whole tournament this year. So don't let me down. I think you can win as long as the KTM, stays up to snuff. And unfortunately, didn't really, stay up to the stuff that we wanted. But anyhow, and again, it's very interesting watching a rider, develop from the Red Bull rookies, and I can tell you anecdotes about him, which really underscore how dedicated he is, all right, and the sheer focus that he puts into it left me completely unsurprised that he made it to MotoGP. Now, before I met Brad, I probably hadn't met a South African in my life. And then I met his dad, and I decided I never wanted to meet another South African. But after our fifth beer, because in Jerez, that first time we met, hotel, I thought he was a bit obnoxious at first, but the hotel served free beer. And I live by an adage, which Ernest Hemingway said, which says, always follow through on promises made while drunk. It'll teach you to keep your big mouth shut. Trevor Bender is the living, breathing example of that. And now he's we were shortly great mates, and he's nobody's helping out my son. I said, I'll help him out. That's incredible. That's how much research I did into the whole thing. But I'll tell you other stories if you need to sound more realistic.
Amazing.
But it was.
Have you got any stories you can share that no one knows about riders? About riders that you sponsored back in the past, and wouldn't again, or would you sponsor anyone? Have they all been people that you've picked that have been really nice athletes, really nice human beings?
I wouldn't comment on any riders that we worked with that I wouldn't work on again because I don't think there are any. And it just wouldn't be. I could talk about some riders that have kind of, what I've seen is some riders that I've worked with not, I think get the breaks I think they deserve. In that breath, I'd probably mention John McPhee. Incredibly talented guy. Just kind of, he came and gave a talk to us a couple of years ago. I think it was 2022 in Silverstone. Yeah. And I asked him to turn around. He goes, "Why? What?" I said, "Just turn around, put your back in the audience." So he does that, and I said, "No, there is no target on your back." And that was the way John had been going. It just seemed like anybody was out to get him, and when he doesn't get nailed by another rider, he got nailed by some teams. So, and I feel that there were a couple of riders. I have a few riders that are in that category that I felt could have done, but for bad luck, could have done a lot better. And then there's also riders that I feel you want to have around. I'll cite one other rider we sponsored for several years, an American. Sean Dillon Kelly. Literally from the moment I met him, he was the most, of all the writers we've ever worked with, the most instantly charming, affable, engaging. I mean, he just, he's the kind of guy you really wanted to sit down and talk to, have a beer with, and learn all about it. And again, and talented. When he went back to the U.S. after his first stint in MotoGP, after the Red Bull Rookies, where he was okay successful. He was top 10, but it wasn't, he wasn't consistently on the podium. And then he went and absolutely demolished the super sport class in Moto America. I mean, there wasn't even a second place. He won something like 10 out of the 12 races he entered, and podium, the 11th. And then he came back to Moto 2. I don't think he fit well with the team, and just never kind of got that ride. Didn't even like the season. And he's just one of those guys that you think, God, if he'd just gotten the breaks and rolled his way, he'd be the American we'd all be rooting for right now. No, not with no disrespect to Joe Roberts, but you see those. Not much you can say. And then you got the hard ones. We worked 2 years with Marco Simoncelli, and I went to his memorial 2 weeks ago in Coriano, and I still was nearly in tears. And that's 12 years after the fact. And a couple of others that are in that sadly in that category, and it just really hits you. And these are people you got to know, joking around with, and and also very, very talented. Obviously, it's hard to know where Marco and one or two of these other ones would have gone, but I think he would have made a fairly major imprint on MotoGP.
Yeah,
100%.
I he'd signed for Repsol Honda, hadn't he, for 2012? I'm pretty sure. I heard that.
Yeah.
We'll never know. But I would have been very emotional at that. I think you would have been as well.
Yeah, I would have been. Yeah.
we haven't got much time left, so I've got a few questions I've written down here, and I'm hoping that middle of that recorded because our mic's died, but we can hear you now. It's recording. So, how on earth did Proposition travel? I've wanted to ask you this. It's my own curiosity for a while. How did you survive through COVID, Gordon?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a tough one, and it is a very relevant question. It was obviously COVID, a total disaster. We 2020 took a 98% revenue hit as compared to 2019 levels. In 2021, it was a 78%. And 2022, which almost back to normal, but still, our second largest audience were our Kiwis and Aussies, and they were still caged up in the country for at least the first half of the year. So we still lost a lot of revenue even in 2022. So that's the backdrop against it. Unfortunately, our road to recovery, or I should say relief, was blocked by Brexit. I mentioned to you that when we set up and when I moved to the EU in 2004, I set it up as an EU limited company rather than a UK limited company. And you know what's coming next. They decided to leave the EU during a pandemic. They've got all these, and my own bank, my UK bank manager said we would be eligible for the Brexit relief funds and loans that the government was doing. In all respects, apart from the fact that our registration was EU and not UK. That kind of hurt because, so we had to, in order to get through it, obviously I lost all my staff, my office, and I kept one staff member on who's still with me today because she's probably the best employee I've ever had in my 30 years of business. And thank God she's my COO, Janet. And we had we made a vow at the start of COVID, obviously not really understanding how long it was going to go on, that we would honor all bookings and honor all payments once events were resumed. Yeah. Now, on top of this, we had showing my inestimable sense of business timing, we had decided to do a major business expansion in 2020. So towards the end of 2019, I had invested heavily. I brought a new staff, new website being developed, a bunch of other stuff. And that hit the streets for January, which is always our best sales month of the year. So January 2020 was our best sales month in history. And we booked a lot of packages for 2020. Wow. And then, of course, we ran straight into that brick wall.
Yeah. Okay.
And we told everybody, we stuck that promise. Also, at that point, expecting to get at least some sort of relief. We got just the opposite. In fact, we were dropped by our credit card merchant company. We were dropped by our insurance company. One of our banks canceled us, all as a result of COVID. And but I am very, very proud to say that we redeemed all of those credits. Now, it took a couple of years. We told people that you had to take your booking by the end of 2023, and so something like 88% of all the credits were redeemed, and the rest, I presume, were either just decided not to go, or they might have got it covered in insurance or But anyhow, so I'm quite proud of the fact that we did that. The way we did it was, frankly, I only just started paying myself a few months ago, starting in January. So I had to do all that stuff and plus dig into what little savings I had left after starting such a silly business. And frankly, we had some suppliers who were extremely cooperative. They worked with us because we were still earning a profit, but I think it was cash flow. It was a disaster because I had to redeem €250,000 worth of credits, while not getting any income. So we had some really good suppliers. I'm happy to name them because they're just wonderful, and some customers who came to my assistance and pre-purchased packages, so they just said, okay, here, they're buying, they're buying gift certificates or credit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that helped. It's just a combination of things we did to help the cash flow, and try to dodge the big brickbats thrown by COVID, Brexit, and I'll happily name our merchant bank of 17 years for which we put 15 million euros through on card transactions with not a single negative, a disputed chargeback. They
Wow.
decided we were too. We decided they decided we were too risky, and then there was PayPal. And if you don't have enough time for me to tell you the PayPal horror story, but just suffice it to say, worst company I've ever worked with in my life, and so we don't deal with them anymore. And and it's just you find that the institutions pretty much saw us as just some really toxic, evil business because we happen to be in this travel business, which is blighted, but literally blight. And then you have our friends, and thank God for our, because it was our friends, both in suppliers, teams, and especially a number of our customers. So I'm still here because of that. I still, sometimes my wife thinks, "Are you sure that was a good idea?"
Testament to all the hard work you've done in the past,
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Well, something worked out, and thanks to the generosity as well of some people helping out. Fantastic. Really quickly, we'll have to be shorter answers because we've run out of time.
Sorry.
All good, man.
Yeah. The Silverstone date change, Gordon. Did it affect the business for amount of team experience packages, available passes, or did they sell out anyway because it clashed with the TT? Do you think it was a daft idea for Dorna changing that?
It was daft. It was profound effect. To put it in perspective, pre-COVID, we would have maybe up to 100 team guests. This year, I think we had 14, and all the way down the line, our tour packages were. I mean, it wasn't even the worst Silverstone we've done. It fell off a cliff. I mean, it was. Silverstone used to be numbered, pre-COVID, among our top 3 events. Now it's going to be in sort of the bottom third. Obviously, I'm hoping that. I mean, the race was fantastic, and I think everybody should have been there. Right? Just do it again in whatever it's August next year, and let's make make Silverstone great again, to coin a phrase.
Should get that on a hat, a nice red cap.
Yeah, we thought it was daft. It really was daft, but we've dissected that enough. But I just wanted to know for you, just someone else to say it, but they've moved it back anyway. So brilliant, happy days.
For
that. Last but not least, the Liberty Media takeover. For what can it do for the sport? Can it make it more mainstream like Liberty did for Formula One, or can you only see subtle improvements from here on in?
I don't want to comment too much. I mean, I've got 22 years of experience in this, and a lot of observations, as you might imagine. I'll tell you a few things I hope they do. First of all, I hope they do not. I will say continue. I hope they don't price this as if it's F1 customers coming to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think that there is a different spirit, and it's not. I have some very, very wealthy customers. All right, they wouldn't ordinarily hesitate. Buying a £6,000 ticket wouldn't really faze them, but they still wouldn't do it because that's kind of that's not where they want to be. And we are. I've often said the difference, the fundamental difference between F1 and MotoGP is that F1, all the action happens off the track, and in MotoGP, it all happens on the track.
Yeah.
My customers, they want to get in there. They want to see, the pneumatic valve arrays going into the latest MotoGP bikes. They want to see, guys, we won a Moto2 race last weekend by just over 2/1000ths of a second.
Yeah.
Now, next time when you hear the radio, and don't get me wrong, Drive to Survive is a great, documentary. But when you hear them saying to Verstappen is only 7 seconds ahead of you, I'm laughing. He's racing in a different class.
It's a lifetime.
and it's that excitement, that sheer raw excitement.
Yeah.
When you see bikes trading paint at 300 kilometers an hour, excuse me, but that is thrilling. It's still me 22 years in this. I'm still that Moto2 race thrilled the hell out of me. The last race in superbikes between Toprak and Bulea, who Bulea beat him to the line by about 3,000. I mean, that stuff is still thrilling even after 22 years in this.
It is,
and
yeah.
you need to capture that. You need to say, this is why it's exciting. It's exciting because it's exciting. It's not exciting because of what Alex Rins has for breakfast. All right. And that's the problem. We have a lot of riders who are really nice. They respect each other vastly because they're all out there really risking their lives.
Really risking their lives, yeah.
By the way, everything I say about this, you can add an order of magnitude for the TT. And
yeah, of course.
The other thing I would I would say is that remove the C clamps on people proselytizing the sport. There's a lot of fans out there. There's you. There's me. How many times you're probably going to get your wrist slapped, or you may have. I have many times get my wrist slapped for videos I've put up. We don't do it anymore. We literally don't do videos anymore. We don't make them public anymore. And we have all of these people, very, very rabid fans, who want to show off where they were when one of the classic examples was when Rossi passed Lorenzo in Catalunya. You know, I was it was so exciting, right? Let them publish those videos. Let everybody absolutely, just have a bath in the wonderful experience they've just had. Tell the world about it. Don't put restrictions on what we can and can't show. Right? Now, and I think that's, you need to, there is a huge, and I would say probably, I can't say for exact experience, but my guess that pound for pound, MotoGP and Superbike bike racing enthusiasts are more enthusiastic per capita than, say, F1. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody drives cars, who at least have some sense about that. But to ride a motorcycle, you have to be a little bit nuts. You have to be something in your brain which you share with all other motorcyclists.
Yes.
And that is the passion that is just exceeds anything I've seen coming in F1 and a bunch of other sports. And I think that is what needs to be capitalized. If we don't get that, then MotoGP will never achieve the ranking that I think it deserves. It is the greatest sport on the planet.
It is.
With some prejudice.
But it's a MotoGP podcast, so you can say that as many times as you want. Brilliant.
Amazing.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we did this. Yeah, we could probably go on for another hour, couldn't we? Quite easily.
Easily, yeah.
No, easily, yeah. But yeah, well, appreciate it. Yeah, just hope you get a million subscribers.
We have double listeners we had a year ago, so it's baby steps for us. But we just enjoy doing it. Really, we're not depressed that we aren't getting tens of thousands of listeners or thousands of listeners. But it's baby steps. But we enjoy doing it. Frankly, we enjoy. Usually, Alex is going to work. Usually, we have a beer, don't we? And talk for an hour and a half, doing a race review of all three classes, silly season, everything. We'll just keep chipping away, I guess.
And we love having guests like you on, Gordon, because it's just it brings an extra bit that we don't usually have to our little pokey podcast. Because
if I can make some,
you provide us with you've got 22 years of experience in motorbike racing and all that, and it's amazing to hear your side of everything. So I really, really, really appreciate having you here today. It's amazing.
No, cool.
Thank you so much.
You can make a concrete suggestion of other people you could get to talk to. Talk to some of the Red Bull rookies. And these young kids, and this is we sponsored two of them this year. The only American, Christian Daniel, and another guy who's very, very, very well spoken. He would do you a lot of credit. And the Aussie, Carter Thompson. Carter went off. I was at the Czech Superbike when he won the his first win last year when he very first race he participated on the Superbikes. He podiumed, and then this year he actually won the race.
Nice.
Which is first time. Guy's amazing. They're both amazing riders, and most of the others are equally. They're really interesting, and it's one of the reasons we both sponsors tend to lean much more towards the younger kids is because I had them in front of the group at Mugello, and just everybody's like rapt in attention because you're learning how do these kids 15, 16 years old get to where they were. And you see their passion and you see what they're trying to build, and then all of a sudden you're out rooting for them. Oh look, there he is. He's number 50. He's leading the pack suddenly, and you just start jumping up and down for a race that you wouldn't have otherwise watched. And I think that they are, and obviously they are the future. But a lot of them just tell really interesting stories of just how they came to be. So,
that's what we need to be. Yeah, absolutely. I think completely agree with you there, Gordon. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, so we'll get on with that.
Grab somebody.
More about three riders interviews in time. So it's having time full time. So.
I'll happily introduce you to anybody at Brno. So if you want to do a quick,
that'd be amazing. Yeah. Well, we're really looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in Brno. That'll be ace. So obviously before, but yeah. I was
going to say I'm going to be super busy, but I've actually
you'll be pulled in every direction anyway. You're going to be pulled in every direction.
No. That's what I'm about to say. No, I've overstaffed it, so I'm actually trying to. Mugello, I went as a superfluous staff to Mugello. It was fantastic. I was like, I didn't have to do too much. I could swan around and make customers happy. And actually have some meetings, like meeting a team that I hope we do some team experiences next year, and things like that. So Brno, I'm not. That's why I said it's. I'm sure I can meet up with you on Thursday because I've got staff now. It's amazing to have staff. By the way, I mean I've gone for 3 years. It was Jenna and I running the company, and it was like, and if you actually wanted to run an event, like 2003, I went to every single event. Almost every single event. That gets tiring. It's tiring, stressful. I don't want to do that one again.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, well, honestly, Gordon, it's been amazing having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And looking forward to meeting you.
Alex, no worries.
I'll have to do a part 2 it. I've just thought of another 3 questions we can't have time for. So maybe in the future. Yeah, but we'll see you in just over 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my God! Don't remind me. Don't remind me that my break. We were only away for 6 days, but that break was far too short.
I said, sorry, it wasn't sorry you had to have us straight after.
No, just before you. Just before you, I had my operations manager pelting me with questions and can you do this and can you help with that? So I've got a whole list of shit what I have to do tomorrow. We're also launching the we're relaunching the Isle of Man TT because we pre-launched it, pre-sales. We sold 90% already, more than 90%.
That's the TT for you.
Wow.
The TT has gone crazy. And then we're launching the Northwest 200, hopefully in the next, I like to keep saying the next week, but I've got to find the time to put it together. But the road racing that's the one that's really going up.
Yeah, I bet.
Non-stop.
Yeah. Crikey. Well, good luck with your continued success.
Yep.
And we'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Thank you, Gordon.
James, I'll catch up with you.
Take care.
See you then, mate. Thank you very much. Cheerio.